Are you truly free? Most people never stop long enough to ask themselves that question. They wake up, follow the same routine, obey the same expectations, and call it life. They move from one day to the next believing they are choosing their path, believing their decisions belong to them. But when you look closer, when you start questioning the invisible forces shaping your thoughts and actions, something uncomfortable begins to reveal itself. You start to wonder whether the life you are living was truly chosen by you, or whether it was quietly decided long before you even realized you had a choice. Freedom is a word people love to say. Nations fight wars over it. Leaders promise it. Stories glorify it. But very few people actually understand what it means to be free. Real freedom is not comfortable. Real freedom forces you to confront the systems, beliefs, and fears that keep you contained. It asks you to examine every wall around you and ask a dangerous question. Who built this wall, and why did I accept it? When I was younger, I believed freedom was simple. I believed it was waiting somewhere beyond the walls. I believed that if those walls disappeared, if the threats outside were defeated, then life would finally begin. I imagined open skies, endless lands, and the ability to go anywhere without fear. But the more I learned about the world, the more I realized something disturbing. The walls around us were never the only prison. Some prisons are made of stone and steel. Others are made of fear, expectation, and habit. And those invisible prisons can be far harder to escape. Think about the way people are raised. From the moment you are old enough to understand words, someone tells you how life is supposed to work. They tell you what success looks like, what failure looks like, what you should believe, what you should avoid. They teach you the acceptable paths, the safe choices, the boundaries that must never be crossed. At first it feels like guidance. It feels like protection. But over time those ideas become something else. They become chains that shape your thinking so deeply that you stop questioning them entirely. You grow older, you follow the path laid out in front of you. And one day you look back and realize you never asked yourself whether that path was truly yours. That is how quiet prisons are formed. True freedom begins the moment you start questioning the rules you never chose. But questioning the world is not easy. The moment you start asking dangerous questions, the world pushes back. People become uncomfortable when you challenge the structures they have accepted their entire lives. Systems built on obedience rarely welcome individuals who seek independence. The more you push against those expectations, the more resistance you encounter. That resistance is where most people stop. They feel the pressure, they feel the fear of standing apart from everyone else, and they retreat back into the comfort of conformity. It is easier that way. It is quieter, it is safer. But safety is not freedom. Freedom demands courage. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast unknown landscape. Behind you is the familiar world, the routines you understand, the expectations people have for you. In front of you is uncertainty, risk, and the possibility of failure. Most people stay where they are because the unknown feels too dangerous. But the truth is that remaining still can be its own kind of danger. When you stop moving, when you stop questioning, when you stop growing, your world slowly becomes smaller. The boundaries around your life tighten until the horizon disappears entirely. Freedom requires movement. Fear has a way of convincing you that your limitations are permanent. It whispers that you are not strong enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough to pursue something greater. Over time, those whispers become beliefs, and those beliefs become barriers stronger than any wall ever built. Have you ever noticed how many people give up on their dreams before they even try to pursue them? They convince themselves the effort would be pointless. They assume failure is inevitable. They decide in advance that the outcome will not change. That is what internal chains look like. It requires the willingness to step beyond what is familiar and confront what lies outside your comfort zone. But even that is not the entire truth. Because sometimes the greatest prison is not the world around you. It is the voice inside your own mind. Fear has a way of convincing you that your limitations are permanent. It whispers that you are not strong enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough to pursue something greater. Over time, those whispers become beliefs, and those beliefs become barriers stronger than any wall ever built. Have you ever noticed how many people give up on their dreams before they even try to pursue them? They convince themselves the effort would be pointless. They assume failure is inevitable. They decide in advance that the outcome will not change. That does not always mean fighting with weapons or standing in the middle of a battlefield. Sometimes the fight for freedom happens in quieter ways. It happens when you challenge the expectations placed on you. It happens when you refuse to accept a future decided by someone else. It happens when you pursue a path that others consider impossible. Every act of independence is a step toward freedom, but every step toward freedom also carries a cost. People who pursue freedom often experience loneliness. They walk paths others are too afraid to follow. They face criticism, misunderstanding, and resistance. Sometimes even the people closest to them cannot understand the choices they make. But that loneliness reveals something important. Freedom is not about approval. Freedom is about authenticity. That is what internal chains look like. They are invisible, but they control your actions all the same. Breaking those chains requires something most people avoid: responsibility. When you realize that your life is shaped not only by the world, but also by the choices you make, something shifts inside you. Suddenly, the question is no longer whether the world is fair or unfair. The question becomes whether you are willing to fight for the life you want to create. Freedom does not appear out of nowhere. Freedom is taken. It is about living in a way that aligns with your own convictions rather than surrendering to the expectations of others. Imagine two lives. One life follows every rule perfectly. Every decision fits the expectations of society. Every action avoids conflict and risk. On the surface, it appears stable and respectable, but beneath that stability is a quiet dissatisfaction. A feeling that something essential was never explored. The other life is filled with uncertainty. It challenges the status quo. It questions authority. It pursues meaning even when the outcome is unclear. That path is harder, but it is also alive. Freedom does not guarantee comfort. In many ways, it guarantees the opposite. But it offers something far more valuable. It offers the ability to define your own existence. Another truth about freedom is that it cannot exist without awareness. Many people believe they are free simply because they have never examined the forces influencing them. They assume their opinions are entirely their own, their desires completely self-created. But think about how much of your identity has been shaped by the environment you grew up in. The culture around you, the stories you heard, the beliefs you were taught, the fears you inherited. All of these influences form the foundation of your worldview. Becoming aware of those influences does not erase them, but it gives you something powerful: choice. Once you understand how your thinking has been shaped, you can decide whether to continue following those patterns or create new ones. That awareness is the beginning of mental freedom. But awareness alone is not enough. Action must follow. Freedom requires the courage to act on what you discover. It requires the willingness to change your behavior even when it disrupts the expectations around you. It requires persistence when obstacles appear, and obstacles will always appear. The world rarely rewards those who challenge its structure. Systems built on stability resist change. Individuals who benefit from the existing order often fear the disruption that freedom can bring. But history shows something remarkable. Every meaningful transformation began with individuals who refused to accept the limits placed on them. They questioned what others treated as unquestionable. They pushed beyond what others believed impossible. They accepted the risks that freedom demanded. And because of that, the world changed. But freedom is not only about large revolutions or dramatic conflicts. It exists in small daily choices as well. Choosing honesty over convenience. Choosing growth over comfort. Choosing courage over fear. Every time you choose authenticity over conformity, you strengthen your freedom. Every time you challenge the voice that tells you to remain small, you expand your world. Freedom grows through repetition, through countless decisions that align your actions with your true beliefs. And eventually those choices shape the person you become. The path toward freedom is rarely clear. It involves mistakes, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But those moments are part of the journey, because freedom is not a destination. It is a process. It is the constant act of examining your life, questioning your limitations, and pushing beyond them. So the question remains, are you truly free? Are your choices truly yours, or are they shaped by expectations you never challenged? Are the boundaries around your life real, or have they simply gone unquestioned for too long? Only you can answer that. But once the question enters your mind, it becomes impossible to ignore, and that question has the power to change everything.